Do you know when you feel that, even with everything on track, our routine seems to have lost that natural rhythm of tranquility we had before? There is a detail in the way Germans live today that we simply stopped noticing. And what I'm going to show you now is exactly what is missing for you to regain lightness in your daily life. You know, if we stop to observe calmly, our routine in 2026 has become a kind of silent marathon. We wake up already connected and go to sleep checking the last notification. It's as if the line between who we are at work and who we are at home has become so thin that at some point it just disappeared. And it is here that the German gaze brings something that may sound strange to us, but which is of profound wisdom. The concept of Feierabend, it's not just clocking in or leaving the office. For them, Feierabend is almost a sacred ritual of transition. It is the moment when you stop being a productive resource and return to being fully a human being. They protect this border tooth and nail. While we often feel a tinge of guilt if we don't answer an email at 8 o'clock at night, or if we're not getting something done for tomorrow, the German pattern reminds us that our mind needs this closure to feel safe. That sense of constant alertness that many of us carry, that state of readiness where rest is always interrupted by a thought about productivity, is what drains our tranquility without us realizing it. When you don't know where your duty ends and where your right to just exist begins, the brain never really relaxes. We remain connected, and this state of permanent wakefulness is what generates this fatigue that sleep does not cure. Germans look at our lifestyle and realize that we have exchanged the depth of the present moment for a hustle and bustle that gets us nowhere. They understand that in order to be good at what we do, we must first be good at resting. It is a form of spectac. They do not see rest as a reward for hard work, but as an essential part of human dignity. And, in 2026, with the world spinning faster and faster, rescuing this invisible border is not a luxury, it is a necessity to keep our serenity intact. Say something here in the comments. Do you feel that nowadays you can really switch off when you get home, or does your mind continue to work even when the body stops? I want to understand if this limit has also disappeared for you. There is a characteristic in the German way of life that, at first glance, may seem rigid, but which in 2026 has proved to be a true safe haven. Predictability. You know that feeling that you always need to have a plan B, a plan C, and be ready to change careers or cities at any time. For us, this is seen as resilience. But the German gaze invites us to think about the invisible cost that this constant adaptation demands from our mind. In Germany, the structures are designed to last, from rental contracts that span decades to a system where the rules of the game don't change mid-game. This creates low volatility on a day-to-day basis. When you know that your health, your housing, and your future are anchored on solid foundations, your brain stops wasting energy trying to predict disasters. You get what I call cognitive silence. Here, we often live in a state of movement alert. We are always recalculating the route with an eye on the next trend, the next market adjustment, the next neighborhood change. It's an incredible agility, yes, but it generates permanent background noise. It's as if we were driving on a dirt road full of potholes. You arrive at your destination, but you arrive exhausted because of the constant tension on the steering wheel. The German standard shows us that true peace of mind doesn't necessarily come from making more money, but from knowing exactly what you can count on tomorrow. They value what is constant. In 2026, realizing that we don't need to be in survival mode all the time is liberating. When society provides this predictable basis, we stop fighting against the future and finally start living in the present. It's not about a lack of ambition, but about having the security to build something that won't disappear in the next wind of change. It's funny how we spend so much time talking about technology and forget to look at the ground where we are stepping. There is an angle here that almost no one explores on YouTube, but that the Germans master with impressive naturalness: how the design of cities shapes our internal silence. I call this the urbanism of the gaze. And understanding this in 2026 is the key to realizing why sometimes we feel so isolated even though we live in large metropolises. In our routine, life happens a lot inside boxes. We leave the box that is our home, we enter the box that is the car, and we arrive at the box that is the office. This isolated displacement creates a disconnect with the environment. To the German eye, the street is not just a path between 2 points, It is an extension of the living room. When you walk through a German city, you realize that everything is done on the scale of the human eye. The windows are low, the shops look straight to the sidewalk, and public transportation puts you side by side with your neighbor. This constant presence of the other creates a sense of security that no camera can replicate. It is the security of coexistence. When you see the movement of people, the faces of those who live around you, and the calm rhythm of the squares, your brain receives a signal that everything is fine, the environment is known. Here, by prioritizing isolation and great distances, we end up transforming public space into a place of rapid transition, and not of permanence. And what happens when we don't occupy the streets? Emptiness generates uncertainty. What the Germans teach us is that collective tranquility flourishes where there is encounter. They protect local commerce and leisure areas so that citizens never feel like outsiders in their own neighborhood. In 2025 and 2026, we are realizing that this lack of organic interaction in our cities is one of the great pillars of this feeling that something has changed. It's not that the world has gotten more dangerous, it's that we stopped looking each other in the eye as we walk. Bringing this topic to the channel is essential because it makes us question, didn't our search for extreme privacy end up robbing us of the sense of belonging? Observing their model is not a criticism of our architecture, but an invitation to adapt our lifestyle. Perhaps the secret to lowering our alertness is simply to return to the sidewalk. Value the small meeting on the corner and understand that real security is not made of walls, but of open windows and calm steps. It is a form of urbanism that takes care of the psychological, transforming the city into a place of welcome and not just of traffic. This is the point where everything we have talked about so far meets. It is the final piece of this puzzle that we are assembling together. You know, we live in a culture where the first question someone asks you when they meet you is, "What do you do?" And automatically our answer is our position. It's as if our identity were a badge hanging from our chest 24 hours a day. But what I notice when looking at the German standard in 2026 is that they have found that calm is not a prize for those who have worked themselves to exhaustion. It is a social asset, a value that defines who they are as much as the profession itself. In Germany, there is a kind of social license for you to be nobody but yourself during your free time. They invest an absurd amount of energy in their hobbies, in their gardening clubs, in photography, or simply in the pleasure of not doing anything productive. And this is not seen as laziness, it is seen as health. While we often feel that invisible pressure that every minute of our day needs to be generating some kind of result or financial return, they understand that silence and idleness are what keep the mind on track. I feel like our routine has pushed us to a place where resting has become an act of resistance, or worse, a reason for guilt. We look to the side and it seems that everyone is producing, conquering, and winning, while our calm is being left behind. What the Germans show us, in a very human way, is that you are much more than your usefulness to the market. When you allow yourself to disconnect from this gear, you begin to realize that the feeling of security that we seek so much is not in the next step of our career, but in the freedom of being able to stop without feeling that the world is going to fall apart. Bringing this vision here to the channel is an invitation for us to breathe a little. It's not about comparing who lives better, but about realizing that there are other possible rhythms. In 2026, true sophistication is having time. It's having a clear mind to enjoy a dinner without your cell phone on the table, or a weekend without thinking about Monday's to-do list. This calm as an asset is what protects their psychology and is what can start to protect ours as well. At the end of the day, we just want to feel like we have control of our own life again. Sometimes, the biggest change we can make is not in the outside world, but in the rhythm we decide to give to our own day. If you want to understand how to protect your peace in the midst of so much noise, click on this video that is appearing up here, because it is the next step that you and I will take together.